Hey guys, welcome back to part 4 of Happy Client Web Build. When I left you before on the sections and stuff that we had did, I went over a lot of this code and stuff I felt like really fast, so I want to back up a little bit, spend just a moment talking about the HTML5 and the CSS handshake and how they support one another in how we want this site to look. Also, I want to go over Flex. I think as we went through this, you've seen that I was using Flex, and I want to go a little more in depth of how I use Flex, how much I like Flex. Over a lot of others, there's Bootstrap, and there's others like that, which are great. I don't know that there's any one software program that's any better than another program. Really, what it boils down to is what you like and what you feel more comfortable with. That makes it the best software program because you're familiar with it, so you're able to do magical things with it that you couldn't with something you weren't more familiar with. So there is no real best or better software program. I think it's just the one that you're happy with. Excuse me. And then thirdly, I want to go through the Trello. I want to show you some stuff that's really cool. We're to the point now to where I can kind of back up and go over some stuff on Trello real quick and show you, how powerful it is to be able to hand sections. You'll notice that we've put this site and stuff in sections, and so I want to show you how easy and quick it is to hand that section over to someone and have them do something and then hand that back to you, and you just plug it into the site. And because of the way you've laid this out, it should just land right where you want it to land. So I'll go ahead and show you some of that stuff as well. But let's get started on this. What I wanted to do is, I know we got some guys watching that are probably, pretty advanced, and this stuff might be boring you a little bit to tears. But what I want to do is bring everyone along, so I know that I'm speaking to some people who, maybe this is some of the first projects and things they've done, so where we're going really very in depth, I want to come back and kind of just talk to you about how some of this stuff is put together. And so basically we talked about, the HTML5 is kind of nice because it has the headers and it has sections and it has the aside and the articles, and then it's got the footer, and it makes it very nice to break these things out into blocks and then control these blocks. And so essentially this header and then this header are these two blocks you can see over here in the site, and then I broke this down into sections as we come more into parts and areas, and as we control elements within the website. This is how we're doing this. So I've basically taken this block here, and I want it to be this separation bar across here, and then I've got this block here that we'll be putting images and stuff in here. And then the nice thing about that is now that I have done that, I can take this right here, I can hand this to someone through a Trello scenario and say, put the image in here and then get back with me. And so what they'll do is put the image in here, and then they'll do the CSS that controls that, and then we'll plug all that stuff in, and I'll show you that here in just a second. But because I've got this block here, it basically has created a block within the browser, and then through the CSS we control what we want that block to do and what we want it to look like and how we want it to act. And so we take this naming convention here, we go up into our CSS, and the dot here means that we're talking about a class. That's why we use class. Class equals this name, and they interface because of the dot. If I was using a hashtag, bada bing, that would be a div. And we'll go over a little bit more of that and what we do with divs and how, the power of being able to use a div. But this is where we're at with this right now. Now what we're doing is we're saying our width is 100%. And the reason I do that is to make this thing responsive. It starts to make everything responsive when we start going in and setting it up for mobile. As I mentioned on the last video, the mobile first thing is a little confusing to me. It's just there's a gazillion stupid screens, and now we've got watches that we're dealing with. And so I designed my site so they look really nice between 13 and 15 pixels. And that makes it possible for me to put 4 300 pixels across my site, because most of your screens are 300 or more pixels across. And so as you start getting responsive on an iPad or phone or something like that, you can lay those blocks out much more easily. So I go anywhere from 13 to 1500 pixels, and I kind of make my adjustments with 300 pixel blocks is how I make my essential plan for that to be responsive with a phone. But this is why I'm doing 100% width on this and 100% width on that, because I want these blocks to take the full length of the screen, whatever it might be. It might be a 300 pixel phone screen. It might be a 600 pixel iPad, but I want that to take up 100% of that, and then I'm going to manipulate images and text and things of that nature to fall into play with that width, because we don't know what that's going to be as we build that to be responsible for each one of the devices that will be utilizing the site. So as you can see, we're 100%, 100%, 100%. So now what I want to do is I want to come down in here and talk to you a little bit about Flex. Like I say, some people have used Bootstrap. There's many different others. I love Flex because it seems to give me more latitude. I don't feel like I'm boxing myself in. And again, I like Flex. I'm used to Flex. I don't know that I'm a Superman with Bootstrap or any of the others. I work a lot with Flex. I understand it, so that's what I use. The neat thing about Flex is there's a site that I will show you that you can go in and you can figure out how you want the Flex callout to manipulate these columns that you have in here. And let me go to that right now. I'm going to put a link in down on the bottom so that you can go to this. But this is flexbox.help, H-E-L-P. And the really fun thing about this is you can look at this and say, well, I want to do rows, or I want to do reverse, I want to do columns. And as you tap into each one of these, it builds out this code right here that you can just copy and paste and put right in your CSS. So your CSS is essentially that you have right here. You would put that code in here, and then this name call out that is class equals down in your div and or your header or your style takes on the effect that you're telling it that you want it to do here. And so essentially, if I'm coming in here, I can pull this back and say, if I want just 4 columns across, or if I want 3 columns across, or if I just want 1 column across, okay? If I want it to wrap, if I want everything to go center, everything goes center. If I want it to go center along the align axis, it sends everything into the center that way. And I'll show you a little bit of how that does that. But this is really a cool site, because as you use Flex and try to manipulate Flex into how you want your site to look, you just put that to where you want that to fit, and then you just copy this code right here and put it into your website. So it's really cool in how you use that to manipulate the boxes and the text and other elements within your site. And what I want to do now, let me go down here and I'll show you. First off, I'm using Flex here, and then this resides inside of this box. So let me show you here. This right here is my image navlink wrap section. So this is one big box right here. Okay, and I'm using Flex. I'm using center on that. So that's what's making this responsive. As you can see, it's keeping everything centered, depending on if I'm going to a big PC screen, or if I'm going to drop down to a, like an iPhone or something like that. These are adjusting in that size, and that's what's nice about that Flex. It keeps everything nice and pretty in that. The boxes within the center do not have a Flex, and what I've done here is, my width, as you can see, I'm doing 22%. The reason I'm doing 22% is because some of this space I'm taking up in my margin. So by the time I do 22% with the size of my margin, and I put 4 of these in here, then it gets me close to the 100% width that I'm allotting myself for this space. And then I give myself a color background, and then I'm going center. Now, the reason this right here is a class call out down below, and I've done 4 of these class call outs that you can see down below here. So this is the same, this is the same, this is the same, this is the same, and it's all sitting within this wrap right here. So this section right here is the wrap, has all these in it, and then these little boxes, all four, sit in this. Now when we get into PHP and we're able to do loops and stuff of that nature, the beauty of being able to do that is that we just do one of these and we run through a loop and we tell it how many times we want to go through that loop. So we just need to do this one time, and then we tell it to go through the loop 4 times, and it does this, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It'd be fun to get to that point and start going over some of that stuff with you guys. Okay, but that's what we're doing on the flex here. Now you'll notice that the justify center, this justify center aligns columns this way. The the align items center goes the other way, and let me kind of explain that. Right now I've got this on auto because I'm letting this determine on 150 pixel height. I'm letting this determine the height because these boxes are 150 pixels high. So because the box they're residing in is auto, this is taking on the same height as the box that I'm putting in there. But if I was to go 200 pixels on that and then come over here and refresh this, you can see that I'm screwing things up because I shouldn't have done that. Okay, so anyway, if we come in here like this, now you can see as this responds like that, it's told the boxes to be centered. And you really can't see that it's telling those boxes to be centered here because this is auto. And so it's letting those float in wherever they want. Now you'll see down below I've used flex in both different scenarios. So if you come down here on this second box down here, you can see I've used flex in this housing here, but I've also used flex within each of the boxes. So the flex inside of this box affects the items that you have inside of the box, just like this flex affects this box that's residing in here. So as you can see, when I spread this out, you can see that the text, and it could be another box, it could be text, it wouldn't matter what other element I had inside of there, it would center like that. It would do center and center. So you can see how cool flex is and some of the fun things that you can do with flex. Okay, now the next thing I wanted to go over really quick is I wanted to talk about Trello. And for time, I'm looking at this video is getting pretty long, so I think probably what I'll do is I'll go into part 5 because I wanted to explain some really cool things on Trello, and it's going to take a little longer than we have here on this one. So be sure and meet me in part 5, guys, because this Trello thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a call out to have somebody third party put an image in here for me, and then they're going to send all that back, and we're just going to plug it into the site, and you can see how cool it is that you can go out there and call for help to put the website together. So see you in part 5.